Create podcast with me, Katrina Julia. This is all about helping you create a life and a business you love, hands-on with tips, tools, and technology. It's about the freedom of expression, of time, of location, of community, and ultimately, financial freedom. I understand the struggle. I've been there. I've walked through and continue to walk through. Walking from fear to faith, devaluing to purity, self-hate to love, corporate to calling, and bondage to freedom. So it's been quite a journey, as you can see. I'm walking right there with you on your own journey to create a life and business you love. So you will learn all the things about wellness, about media, about lifestyle, and travel. You will learn how I'm creating it and how you can create it too. So who am I? I'm Katrina Julia. I'm a lifestyle entrepreneur, a creator, and a traveler. Welcome to my Creator Snapshots and a series on 2 to 7 minute segments where I share or other creators share on faith, wellness, money, marketing, business, and our travel and tips on how to create it.
Hey everybody, I'm Naresh Vissa, founder and CEO of Krish Media and Marketing. I'm also the best-selling author of multiple books on business and e-commerce, including 50 Shades of Marketing, Whip Your Business into Shape and Dominate Your Competition, as well as Podcastnomics, the book of podcasting to make you millions. I'm here to tell you today a little bit about how I created my books, 50 Shades of Marketing and Podcastnomics, as well as my top 3 tips or my top tips to create not just the books, but creating a podcast. So first off, I really enjoy writing. I have a degree in broadcast and digital journalism. I actually have probably 5 or 6 different degrees, undergrad and master's, if you include all the different areas that I've focused on. But I like writing, I like learning, I like researching, and I have worked in business and marketing, finance for really since my college days. So close to 20 years, 15, 20, close to 20 years now. So I always had a passion for educating and sharing my knowledge, my experiences with the world, whether that's through podcasting, which I host my own podcast, the Work From Home Show, or through writing my books, which I mentioned earlier. So how did I create these? Back when I was in school, there was no self-publishing. It was very difficult to get published in anything. You had to basically get a full-time job as a columnist or a journalist for a newspaper or a magazine, or you had to get a book deal, and then you could get published and make your voice heard. Now it's easier than ever with the internet, with online technology, the digital economy. So how did I create my books? Well, first you have to write them. That's the most important part. That's 60 to 70% of the work. Actually writing the manuscript, editing the manuscript. After that, I highly recommend you check out my another book I wrote called From Nobody to Best-Selling Author. And it's all about how to write, publish, and market a book. So definitely in that book, I share more tips, but what you want to first do is write the book and then use Amazon. So there's an Amazon platform called Kindle Direct Publishing, KDP, where you can self-publish the Kindle version, the paperback version, the hardback version, and even the ACX platform, which helps you publish the audiobook version. So that's how those platforms are self-explanatory. That's how you can go about publishing your books. As far as my top 3 tips to podcasting go, of course, you can get my book Podcastnomics, but the first thing is you want to podcast on a niche topic. So I brought up earlier that I have a podcast called The Work From Home Show. It's a business podcast. Our podcast is not called The Business Show because that can encompass or talk about anything from marketing to finance to supply chain to corporate cultures, HR, technology. It's very broad. You want to really, really narrow cast a niche. So working from home is a very narrow topic. So that's step number 1. Tip number 1 is narrow cast. If you want a podcast, get as narrow and specific as possible. Underwater basket weaving. That's a very narrow and specific topic. So that would be a good podcast topic. So once you've figured out what you want to podcast about, the next step is, well, how do I start the podcast? And I would recommend that you, number 1, create a website. You absolutely need a website. So house the podcast on the website and have a website that has more information on the podcast so that Google can find it and so that you have a place for people to find you on the internet. And then the next step you want to take is to host the podcast on a platform like Anchor or TuneIn or Spotify. Sorry, not TuneIn. Anchor, which is owned by Spotify now, I believe. So Anchor's a good one. Libsyn is another one that's very popular. Libsyn. Blueberry is another one that's popular. I would go with the 2 most popular ones I think now are Libsyn and Anchor. So I'm going to stick with those 2. There are a few others, but let's stick with those 2. So you want to, again, it's self-explanatory. Just visit like Libsyn, type in Libsyn into Google, and it's self-explanatory on how you can set up your podcast there. And then the third tip I said you want to host it, you want to put it on a website. I would consider those to be actually clumped into one tip. So tip number 1 is the narrow casting niche. Tip number 2 is basically where your podcast is going to be housed on Libsyn and your website. And tip number 3, I would say, is to publish frequently. Frequently can be once a week. It can be twice a week, but you want to publish definitely once a week, not once a month. You want once a week because that's going to help you rise the rankings on iTunes. It's going to help you grow your audience. It's going to create consistency. I've seen so many podcasts fail because they're really excited in the beginning and then they just fall off and stop publishing after 8 or 9 months to whenever they want to publish. And the listeners, you're basically leaving them hanging because they have no idea if the podcast is dead or if the host is committed to it. So definitely publish frequently. That's the hardest part of podcasting, just like the hardest part of publishing a book is writing it. So I've written several books, Podcastnomics, From Nobody to Best-Selling Author, 50 Shades of Marketing. What else have I written? The New PR. Those are all books about online and digital, about these topics of podcasting and marketing. So I hope you've enjoyed, and thanks guys for listening. Check out my website at Krish, Krish, mediamarketing.com, krishmediamarketing.com, and all the best.
So how are you loving the Creator Snapshots? If you are a creator and you would love to submit a snapshot with tips on faith, wellness, money, marketing, business, and or travel, Then check out in the show notes the form to submit for your creator snapshot for us to consider yours, as well as even more opportunities to collaborate in our Create It community. All the chats on faith, wellness, money, marketing, business, and travel, so you create a life and business already. Head on over to the blog, the podcast, and the freebies to jumpstart your transformation. If you're ready to dive into the online courses, the live events, or the retreat, and if you want to create with our community on an even deeper level, definitely check out our internships, our influencer collaborations, management, and brand engagement. Let's create it.